Hello everyone, I'm Irina Solovianenko and I'm managing partner at Access Machinery. Access Machinery is a Canadian dealer for Durma and we specialize in metal fabricating equipment. I hope everyone is having a wonderful Saturday morning and thank you for joining us. Today we're gonna continue our conversation about fiber lasers and I have here with me Andrew Vicente, our application specialist. Our topic today will be air cutting on fiber lasers as assist gas. Andrew, please.
Absolutely. Thank you, Irina. So I'm Andrew Vicente here at Access Machinery. So air cutting I wanted to talk about today. Now, actually, air cutting has been around for about 20 years. However, why is the industry still really on top of nitrogen and oxygen? Well, it all stems from back then when CO2 lasers were the dominant force in the industry. However, with CO2 lasers and air cutting, the quality wasn't very good at all. So it was considered kind of a third option opposed to nitrogen and oxygen, eventually to the point where most OEMs went for, we're not going to use this because the quality is not up to standard. Fast forward to today with our fiber laser technology, and because of our IPG resonator and beam quality, we can now use air cutting as a viable alternative and cost-effective alternative versus nitrogen and get the similar quality parts, or even in some cases, even better quality.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. And we have prepared today 3 showcases on the actual parts from actual customers to show you how you can get cost-effective solution for your manufacturing on daily basis using air as assist gas. And please feel free to post your questions. We will be glad to answer them at the end of this session. So we're going to start today with the mild steel. This is 40 thou gauge mild steel, and the customer is the job shop. So as a job shop, it's very important, of course, to provide excellent quality cut part, and at the same time to provide price that customers will be satisfied. So we're going to show you first cutting on the mild steel using air. And Andrew, please, can you start?
Absolutely. Here we go.
So as we mentioned before in this video, we actually can cut with air, and through the panel here is an easy selection to switch to air cutting from nitrogen seamlessly. This material here is 40 thou steel, and with air cutting we're able to cut this part very cleanly. We also maintain the same speeds as nitrogen cutting this part despite using air cutting. When we say air, we are actually talking about direct compressed air from your compressor. What's important again is that the air needs to be as clean as possible to get the kind of cutting results you see here. Air cutting is successful because it actually works together with nitrogen and oxygen to create the cut. As you probably know, the standard air we breathe is mostly nitrogen with a touch of oxygen, so that's a great mix here to help us cut parts efficiently. A feature-heavy part such as this one, as you see here, would actually consume quite a bit of gas, so air cutting is preferable on this part to maintain competitive in the industry. Due to a high beam quality from the IPG resonator here, 2 kilowatt in this case, we can maintain the quality of the air cutting throughout the entire sheet. Even as the sheet starts to heat up, the beam is very finely directed. for quality. Again, if you'd like to have air set up for you, we can absolutely help you here at Access Machinery. Please contact us and we can get it set up as you see here.
All right, now we're finished cutting. Andrew's gonna show us how did it go. Andrew, please. While Andrew is bringing part, it is 5x10 side loader, 2 kilowatt machine. If I didn't mention it.
That's right. In episode 1, we mentioned that. For all you listen, that's right. So our steel part, as you can see here, it's excellent quality, and there's actually no burr on this part, and it cuts successfully. This could be taken right to the next operation without any problems. What's interesting about this part, actually, is that even though we used air cutting, the speed is the same as nitrogen in this case. So if you were trying to use oxygen for cost cutting, the oxygen would actually be about 30% slower. So this is the much better solution for cost cutting in this case. So this is going to be a very happy job shop using compressed air from their compressor instead.
Wow, that's amazing. 25% savings just on the cutting. Can you calculate? Well, that's great. We're going to move on to the next case. It is a stainless steel. The customer is manufacturing washroom supplies, and they're cutting thin gauge stainless steel with the protective film. I will show you the part. So the part is this. I'm not sure that you can see it. So again, the challenge is to find cost-effective solution, provide accurate cutting, and again, it should be clean as secondary operations are not required. So no buffing, no grinding, no nothing. And we're going to show you now how we can do it on our fiber laser machine.
Perfect.
Andrew?
Switching to film-covered stainless here, we're still using air, but because of the parameters are built into the machine and are easy to adjust, we can quickly move over and change our gas type. This material here is 40 thou stainless steel with film wrap on top. Yes, we can still cut film wrap material with air, giving you a huge competitive advantage here. Air cutting actually cuts extremely well on this material. The quality of the edge is excellent, and yes, we even cut even faster. How do we get faster speeds, you ask? It's because, as you know, that air is mostly nitrogen and a touch of oxygen. The mix of the gases, again, helps us here get through this material faster than we would with nitrogen, giving you a significant competitive edge when cutting this type of material. We don't have any burning on the top of the film here, and we cut right through the material. On a CO2 laser, or for that matter, on a laser not using air cutting, it would be much, much slower to cut this part.
Okay, we're done with this part as well. And while Andrew is retracting the part, I wanted to say a couple words about the shuttle table. All our shuttle tables are servo motors, and the exchange speed on the table is from 20 to 37 seconds, depending on the materials that you're using on top of it. It's very important for those customers who are using automation, as the time for the exchange table, it's also saving you time, and you can boost your manufacturing on that.
That's right. Productivity is where it all matters. So if you look at this part here, I pulled this fresh off the laser. We're cutting through the film. There's no burrs on this part. I can run my hand across comfortably without cutting myself at all.
Magic.
And as you can see, magic. Love it. And as you can see, I will peel the film here. We cut right through it because they need this finish. After brake press operations, if this film wasn't on this part, you'd actually see the brake press lines, I'm sure many are aware of. And even still, you know, sometimes they get put in a pile and dragged across the table. These parts are going to be scratched. So it's very important that this part come off the laser and go right to the brake press. And this part is ready for that.
And again, it's cutting with air, so providing cost-effective solution.
Correct.
All that matters nowadays, everybody knows about the economy situation, unfortunately. So if we can find any solution that helps our customers to save on their manufacturing, we are glad to do so. Let's move to the next case, and it is aluminum.
That's right, aluminum.
Aluminum is one of my favorite materials, again, because this is one of the trickiest materials to cut because of its chemical composition, because it's a very soft material to pierce, but then it's tricky to get it smooth and burr-free on the surface. The customer is involved in the medical industry. So this is mounting bracket for the hospitals. So you probably have seen it at the back. Again, we're going to show you how you can cut with air and get excellent results and fast cutting.
All right.
Yeah, all right, let's go.
Switching over to aluminum is just as easy as changing over to stainless. Again, with the parameters here, we can switch over to air without any physical changes needed. A nozzle change might be required, but we do offer an automatic nozzle changer. It's not seen here, but you can ask us and we will send us a video to you of how that system works. This part specifically is made at a 50 thou aluminum 5052 grade. Aluminum actually reacts very well to air, much like stainless steel. You get a higher cutting quality and more stable cutting across the sheet. The edge quality is actually so good, in fact, that you'll end up with less burr than you would with nitrogen. Yes, less burr, making air a top choice for cutting aluminum. If you want to know how to cut your aluminum like this, please ask us here at Access Machinery and we'll get you the right sizes based on your thickness and your type of material, and we'll help you size a compressor for your machine specs.
And we are done with cutting aluminum part. Andrew will show it in a second. And while Andrew is removing the part from the table, I wanted to encourage you, if you have some parts that you would like to feature during our live streams, please do so. You can always email it to info@accessmachinery.ca, or you can contact us at our showroom number and speak to our representatives how you can do it, so we can feature you during one of our live streams as well, and we can show you how your part can be perfected and cut in the best way. Okay,
even with air if you want to see it.
Yes, absolutely.
That's right.
If the wattage is allowing,
That's right.
then you can do it.
Perfect.
Okay, let's see the part.
As Irina said earlier, again, aluminum is a tricky material, specifically because its reflectivity and how soft of a material it is with the piercing and everything getting in the way. So especially on CO2, we had a lot of trouble with burr here. But now we find when we cut with nitrogen, it's pretty good. But now in this case, we're using air, so it's even better. Yes, I said that, even better. Air actually can produce better edge quality, depending on the kilowatt of the machine you have, better edge quality than nitrogen. So there's only benefits in this material. This is why this is a great candidate for air cutting in this case.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as we are talking about the wattage, I think it would be good to mention about the resonators that we're using. On our lasers, we use only fiber laser source. We don't work with the CO2, and the resonators that are used on our lasers, they are made by IPG. Andrew, maybe you can give a little bit more perspective on that.
So IPG is well known in the industry for their fiber beam quality. And this is partly why this air cutting is working so well. IPG has an excellent beam quality from the resonator. Especially in this case with a 2 kilowatt laser, the beam quality is fantastic. That's where we're able to use air cutting. As I mentioned earlier in the stream here, I said that air cutting has been around 20 years, but how come we weren't using it? The beam quality just wasn't quite there yet until nowadays when you have that ability to cut with air instead. I also wanted to talk about some of the other components in the machine. So it's actually a Siemens controlling machine, a German company I'm sure you're aware of, using a Pressatech head here, again, another German company. There's actually 3 types of heads here. So we got 3 types of heads. This one has the Pro Cutter, but I'm going to talk about the first type first. It's called the Light Cutter, okay? So it uses a 120 millimeter focus, and this is meant for thin materials, and it's paired well with a low kilowatt machine, and even better with air cutting. Air cutting is typically used on the thinner materials. Of course, you can scale it up to mid as well with your kilowatt allowing. But the Light Cutter is an excellent addition to a machine that you're going to plan on using air cutting and lower kilowatts on. Then we got the Pro Cutter. The Pro Cutter gives you a wider variety of cutting. So if you're going to be doing more job shop where you might have thin one day, mid-thick another, maybe some thicker materials later, the Pro Cutter gives you a wide variety of cuts. Then we move on to the newest technology. It's called the Zoom Head. This lets you process mid to thick materials much more quickly, with much higher quality, even in some cases than a CO2 in the thick materials, because of how we control the beam. And even still, future technologies such as beam mode manipulation, as IPG will be coming out with as well, that you can actually change the beam and make the quality even way beyond CO2, essentially making fiber the ultimate choice for laser technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And having said that, we have one more feature that might be beneficial for customers who are using bevel cutting. It is possible to make head beveled plus minus 45 degrees, depending on your application. It is becoming more and more popular, especially for the customers who are replacing plasma cutting to laser, and they got used to this beveled cut. It is available on the lasers. So please feel free to ask us, maybe during one of the future live streams.
Sure.
We're going to show you cutting on the angle, on the thicker materials.
That's right. So how do we get into air cutting? I've been talking about it all day. You're probably thinking, well, I got a compressor. Every shop has a compressor, of course, right? Now, you got to be very careful, though. Air quality needs to be maintained. So it is recommended that you have a dedicated compressor with a dryer and many filtration systems to get this kind of air quality cutting. You may tap into your previous compressor, but you need to make sure your air quality is very high. Also, the flow rates. So, for example, here we have a 10 horsepower compressor, which is about the recommended minimum, directly connected to the machine, only dedicated to this. With 150 horsepower, or 150 psi in our case, the minimum recommended is 100 psi. And then, of course, we have a dryer and excellent filtration systems in the back. This is very important, so I don't want you to have a situation where your air quality cutting is reduced and you're like, well, Andrew said it looked amazing. I saw it on the stream. Very important to make sure your air quality is very high, so then you can get it to it yourself.
Yes, absolutely. And if you need more information on depending again on the size of your machine, depending on the kilowatt power that you're using, you will require different size of the compressor. We will be glad to guide you on this as well. So please feel free. Let's say, again, as we mentioned, it's 2 kilowatt machine, 5x10 table. And for our application, for those materials, it is absolutely enough to have that compressor with the 10 horsepower and 150 psi. right? But probably you will require higher than that. And as Andrew mentioned, it's very, very important to maintain air quality, to keep it clean and dry. Any particles are not.
Absolutely. It's very important to have cleaner. I cannot stress that enough. But when you do, you'll love the results, as you've seen today as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I think we covered our topic for today, and I would like to resume from the last episode that we received some questions afterwards, and I think it might be interesting for all the viewers today. So particularly afterwards we got questions because we were comparing a lot CO2 to fiber. Some customers are still asking, like, let's say, okay, if I'm changing to a fiber laser, what shall I expect on the maintenance side? What shall I expect on the hydro consumption and the all other expenses that might be involved? We are well positioned to provide return on the investment calculations alongside with that. So if you prefer to do it the following way, you can send us calculations on, let's say, what is your monthly maintenance, what's your monthly consumption on the gas, on the hydro, and we can provide you, based on your parts, we can provide the calculations how much it will cost you to produce the same parts using Durma fiber laser machine. And this way it's going to be very easy to see what to expect. And on the maintenance side is basically the same thing. You will be able to see what's going to be involved. And having said about the maintenance, it's again, as I'm mentioning, fiber laser machine is a highly technological machine. At the same time, on the maintenance side, it's very easy to maintain. It is basically virtually, it's maintenance-free machine. It has manual on the side of it, what operators should do on a daily basis to keep machine healthy and clean. And fiber lasers are average run on the resonator is 180,000 hours. So this is cutting hours, exactly, cutting hours. That's very important too, because let's say machine is on right now, so it's going to show that you have those operating hours, but at the same time we don't have beam on. So this is a good thing to consider as well for the future investment and so on.
Basically, when it comes to maintenance on this machine, if as long as you keep up the greasing, do your daily cleaning on the very easy to remove plastic glass or glass under the cartridge there, under the head, and you replace the water every 6 months depending on your usage cycle. You can even go a year depending if you're 2-shift or 1. That's basically the main maintenance items on the machine. Of course, keeping it clean and shiny is important as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We also got lots of questions afterwards about the automation systems that are working, that are in place. And in particular, the interesting question was about not only loading, unloading, but the sorting parts as well. Because as we know, after you finish cutting, you need to sort parts out. So we have the system in place as well. Our space here is not allowing exactly to show the system. We have it on our YouTube channel. We also have it on our website. You're more than welcome to have a look. If you have any technical questions, you can ask always Andrew. So please do so. And I believe this is what we wanted to cover today. Do we have questions? Excellent.
Excellent.
Okay. Let's see what you're asking. Andrew,
Perfect.
would you like to take this one?
What is the air pressure we used? So today we used 150 psi, but it's not just about air pressure. It's just as important, but you have to worry about how much flow your compressor can handle. Specifically, the CFH, cubic feet per hour, or you can use CFM. If you ask your compressor supplier, they can let you know what you require. All right.
The next question, is it compatible with all your lasers? Yes, it is absolutely compatible with the all Durma lasers. And if you would like to, again, to practice on your particular parts, we will be more than happy to assist you. Even if you have not new model, let's say if it's 7 years old, please contact us. We will be happy to assist you on the application side.
That's right.
All right?
You got more questions?
No, not as I see. More questions?
Did one pop up?
About how much can we save on operating cost by using air cutting? Well, as we know, acid gas, nitrogen, and oxygen are quite expensive gases, and sometimes on the calculation on the parts, depending again on the parts complexity, how many pierces you need to do, you're going to be using more gas, and sometimes in your operating cost, gas can play up to 70% portion, right? So if you look at the air, let's say, again, we are talking about thin gauge steel.
Typically, yes.
So saving cost can be anywhere, you're looking at the 25% and up.
Perfect.
Okay,
All right.
good. I think, guys, we are come to the end of today's session. Thank you again for joining us. I can give you one sneak peek for the next week live stream. As always, Saturday, 10 a.m. AST, we're going to be featuring press brake. I'm not going to tell you now exactly
Right.
which one, because we still would like to keep you interesting.
Yep.
Again, the press brake that we're going to show, it has 175 tons of pressing tonnage. So if you have some parts within that range to bend with this power, please send us drawings. We will be happy to feature you. And for the most attentive viewers, I would like to ask one question. If you notice something on me today that is not exactly belonging to me.
Can you find it?
Can you find it?
Little fun game.
Yes.
All right.
Okay, we will let you to enjoy the rest of the weekend. Have a pleasant, it's almost summer here in Canada, and I know that there are viewers that are watching us not in Canada but in the other countries, so stay safe and healthy. And we hope that things will be back to normal very soon.
I hope so.
Thank
Stay
you so
safe.
much.
Take care.
Thank you, Andrew. Take care. See you next Saturday.